Response video is Kenny the Sage guy. Seems a reasonable youth. You know, probably not going to hate him on a lot of subjects, but whatever, we'll see. So he did a response video and he pointed out two things he disagrees with me on, and I don't know if we really disagree or not. The first one, I really didn't even understand what he was saying, because he wasn't even accurately quoting what I was saying. You know, I never said intelligence is exclusively for the purpose of, you know, consumption and reproduction, or at least reproduction. You know, no, it serves need, though. What I'm saying is it's the nature of intelligence. It has to serve a purpose. It has to have a use. You have to apply it to a problem. That's what intelligence is useful for. In and of itself, it really doesn't do anything. And knowledge for the sake of knowledge is kind of meaningless. It's not all that, whatever the word would be. It's really got to serve some person's curiosity, or it's got to serve their need to find a solution to a problem, or it's got to solve a problem, period. And that's where it has use. That's all I was saying. It's not in and of itself valuable. It's only valuable as a tool, basically. Just pursuing knowledge for the sake of knowledge is not something anything would do. They'd have to have an incentive. They'd have to have a reason to think knowledge had value. They'd have to have a problem to solve, and therefore they needed knowledge. I mean, it sort of works that way. But anyway, it's not an important subject to dispute. But anyway, we'll move on to the other one. The other one, we're just back to the subjective, objective crap about suffering. And oh, I mean, I just gotta find some concise way to argue this. But I mean, I think I've done it, and I just don't understand why there's any argument here. Our intelligence exists we're a subjective feeling human. Now, some people like Pyro don't make a distinction between thoughts and feelings because they think they're all the same thing, and I think they're completely different animals. Our feelings are basically just conditioned responses. Our intelligence is dynamic and changes any second. It can change. Your whole perspective can change on a thought, on an idea, on a word. It's not rigid. But our intelligence was built by nature over 4 billion years, and it's a reasoning machine. It's intended to observe the world, to take in information, and calculate with it to figure out how the world works, basically. That's what it's trying to do. It's a rational machine at its core. And yeah, it can be put to nasty purposes. It's like any other technology. We can pervert it with our want and our desire, and we can use it as a rationalizing tool. But we know when we're doing that, and you know, we can break the logic because we can establish a false premise anytime we want to. You know, God exists, and then we can make up a whole story based on that false premise, that piece of bullshit. But the capacity to do intelligence, to do logic, is sound, and there's nothing stopping us from observing creatures, these sentient creatures, and making value judgments about what they're feeling, to at least recognize the value of the feeling, the capacity to be harmed. And so my whole value equation only has, it's really rudimentary, it's very simple. Harm, suffering, pain, misery, unpleasant sensation is, in my opinion, the negative. That's to be prevented. That's to be eliminated. That's to be mitigated against. The positive, in my opinion, is doing that. That's the positive act, is to eliminate a negative, to eliminate suffering. And so, yeah, and the suffering is real. It matters. It's not, it's intellectually observable that sentient creatures have this phenomenon of feeling, and it's perfectly reasonable because of our own experience. We know it, that this stuff is important. Okay, this phenomenon is significant. It's not wall paint. It's not rocks. It's something different. All right, and just like we can recognize other forces in the universe like gravity and magnetism and all this other stuff, we can we can recognize this manifestation of an intellect and a brain that's now capable of feeling, and that these feelings matter, that there's decisively positive and negative feelings that take place, and that the positive ones are basically perceived through desire first, which hugely accelerates or expands the perception of their value. So we strive for pleasure, but the desire we feel is more for an object or a thing. It's not even for the pleasure itself. It's for the anticipation of the pleasure, or however you want to describe that. And I've described it as an addiction. So it's like heroin doesn't have any intrinsic value except to somebody who's addicted to it. And that's basically what happens to human psychology. And so that's where intelligence can go wrong if we start taking testimony and start saying, well, I think trees are lovely, and I use that as a piece of intelligence. And then I'm sort of breaking the rules, because that perception of loveliness is a conditioned response based on a subjective human, and it has nothing to do with an absolute or perfect or universal fact. But the fact that sentient creatures feel is a universal fact. And the fact that that feeling thing has meaningfully different it provides opportunity to experience meaningfully different things. This negative sensation versus positive sensation is just a fact, and I just don't see any other. Like I said, I don't even know how to argue this, because I knew it when I was 4 years old. I knew from my first conscious moment. I knew pain was significant. I knew pleasure was significant. And I didn't need any logical equation to figure that out. My own eyewitness testimony was perfectly good, solid evidence, in my opinion. And I don't know why anybody would argue against that personal experience and say, no, it's somehow fooling us into thinking something horribly unpleasant to experience is really just as good as something pleasurable. That's idiotic. It doesn't, well, whatever. So I'm not going to argue that kind of crap. But anyway, that's the equation. All other morality or ethics is basically a social contract. Those are norms, structures that we have to build in a society just to prevent ourselves from trespassing against each other or killing each other. But the only real thing that matters ultimately, absolutely, is your effect on this net equation of suffering and pleasure. And if the game for a good life is basically one that if you add up what you felt and what you experienced in your life, plus how you affected other people, it's the net. How much suffering versus how much prevented suffering is the big equation. And then you can throw in this little added pixie dust of what pleasures you gained out of it, because it really is just pixie dust, because it's desire that is the game, is the pleasure game. The moments we spend in real ecstasy are just, they're minute percentage of life experience. And they're certainly not as experiences. If you take them and isolate them, you can't undo the other stuff. I mean, 45 seconds of orgasmic pleasure on one side, and 2 weeks dying of cholera on the other side, and there's no way you're going to be able to balance that into a rational equation and say that little bit of orgasm was worth that suffering. So anyway, but I don't want to get into the details of the argument, and running out of time anyway. And so anyway, but yeah, I'm going to continue to do these 3-minute videos, but people got to understand the concept. I mean, I basically want, if I say life sucks, your obligation is to make a 3-minute video explaining why life doesn't suck. All right, if you're going to talk about shoes or some other kind of bullshit, that's not going to work. Because the idea is, I do 3 minutes, you do 3 minutes, I do another 3 minutes, and then you get the final 2 minutes, and we make a video out of it, and of a whole argument. But so far, I haven't got any 3-minute videos that have anything to do with the subject. Basically, they're arguing me or some other kind of bullshit, but they're not arguing the point. They're not saying, no one's made a video explaining why life doesn't suck. So until that happens, I can't make a counter argument, because I haven't really been counter argued yet. So anyway, I think it's a good idea, so I'm going to make more of them. And yeah, I'm starting off at the top. I'm starting off with the hardest philosophical questions, and then we'll move down to the lighter shit as necessary. Because obviously a lot of people don't get it, but a lot of people must get it too, so they just don't make comments. It's just only the assholes comment, which is unfortunate. So anyway, nothing else much to add. I did want to say that Tree Sky or whatever, I think I blocked him. He made the last, okay, it's bad enough the UFO crap, we got to worry about galactic warfare or something. But now he's saying trees and plants feel because somebody plugged electrodes on them. I mean, it's just so stupid. They can make a battery out of a potato. That does not mean a potato has a brain. I mean, it's just so stupid to have to argue that kind of crap. So yeah, you're just not up to it. You can't participate in the argument if you think plants feel. You're just too fucking stupid. So anyway, till next time. Yep, out of time now.